Hello, Ghost Traders. My name is Angelique with GhosTrades, and it is time for your market update. And didn't we have just an absolutely wild ride last week in the market? The S&P 500 dropped off its highs with some significant choppiness for the first 2 weeks of April, followed by getting absolutely clobbered. Then the S&P recovered almost half of those losses just last week. Now, right now, we're in the middle of a big earnings season. In fact, one of the busiest out there, with about 1/3 of the S&P 500 companies reporting their earnings, which actually represents about 40% of its market cap. Now, while there are more winners than losers, it's still up in the air as there's quite a few upsets overall, and it's not really given us a solid consensus. Now, one of the earnings I want to point out to you is that of Tesla. Now, they're dropping their prices to be competitive. And as of Monday, Tesla was on a 7-day losing streak. You see that right here on this chart. And then Tuesday came in. We've got a nice spinning at top of indecision there. And once those earnings were released, it almost made up for that entire 7-day losing streak, even amidst a major decline in revenue because of the ongoing price cuts. Now, it also looks like Elon Musk announced that they can start production of their new affordable models in early 2025 instead of what they expected, which was mid 2025. Now, Bitcoin going into the weekend, well, actually Friday, April 19, so weekend before last, Bitcoin completed its fourth halving, which, by the way, happens about every 4 years based on the quantity of the transactions. And it's where the rewards to the Bitcoin miners are cut in half. This limits the supply, essentially causing scarcity of the token. Now, all of this sets the stage for the next Bitcoin bull run. Now, speaking of bull run, this kind of already started taking place because outside of the last month or so where we had some volatile sideways movement because, everyone did see the halving coming, the Bitcoin ETF that started trading mid-January of this year really seems to have helped give that Bitcoin a bit of a nice push to the upside ahead of its halving. And this is something that hasn't happened the last 3 times. Now, for gold and silver, gold dropped about $65 on Monday, found support about $2,300, and it's slowly climbing back up and currently trading around $23.38. Silver followed suit, dropping about $1.50 on Monday. Then it found some support where it is currently sitting a little over $27. Now, on the political front, last week, Biden signed into law about $60 billion for Ukraine, $26 billion for Israel, $8 billion for Taiwan. Also signed was the TikTok ban requiring its owner ByteDance to sell TikTok within 9 months, after the election. Of course, TikTok has already vowed to fight it legally. And finally, with the economy, we are in a situation of rising inflation while our economy is seriously slowing. Regardless of what they are telling us about how amazing we're doing, that, my friends, is called stagflation. And without geeking out too much on the numbers, our advanced GDP quarter over quarter, in other words, Q1 GDP, came in at 1.6% instead of the expected 2.5%, while the PCE inflation numbers came in higher at 2.8% versus the expected 2.6%. Not a good state of affairs to be in. Now, if you can remember, we talked earlier about the usdebtclock.org site. Remember what I said last time, and it's the same thing happening now. This number right here on this upper left, this is our national debt. This is going up $1 trillion every 100 days. And this is while we have wars, yes, plural. Our supply chains are being disrupted all over the world. Everyday groceries keep going up. Fuel prices are starting to get higher again. I will say, though, that when it comes to knowing what to do in the market, Ghost Traders, you're in the right place. It is a beautiful thing to understand how to trade up, sideways, and down as the market is not real clear on direction at the moment. Now, we broke upside market structure right about here in the beginning of April. And for the short run, it's looking pretty bearish. Well, last week was a pullback to the upside, but was it? Was it a pullback to the upside, getting ready for another bearish push, or were these first 3 weeks of April just a pullback to the downside, getting ready for another bullish run? Okay. Now, when it comes to the S&P 500, which is kind of what you see on the chart here, while still going up, and you see that all the way, right? We were going up. It actually came down on some support right here. But what I really want you to pay close attention to is the fact that as this is going up, we see some just kind of strong moves to the upside. However, you see right in here where we have just some sideways action, right? Kind of tells me that the market is getting a little heavy. We're seeing some smaller candles, some smaller bodied candles. Then all of a sudden we start going to the downside. That tells me again the market's getting a little heavy. Now that being said, that doesn't mean that the powers that be may not kind of do what they feel is necessary. But overall, we do need to pay attention to these charts and understand what they're telling us. It's extremely important. Now, that being said, going into next week, we have many earnings announcements. Now, when it comes to the earnings calendar, on Monday, we have a couple that I actually look at here is Domino's and SBA Communications. On Tuesday, we've got Amazon, Eli Lilly, Coca-Cola, 3M, and Starbucks. And this is just a couple of earnings. There's quite a few next week. Wednesday is going to bring us CVS, eBay, Etsy, Pfizer, Qualcomm. Thursday, I'll be looking at Apple, Amgen, BKNG, which is Bookings Holdings, and then Moderna, ticker mRNA. Interesting. Friday's going to bring us Berkshire Hathaway, CBOE, as well as Hershey. Now, as for reports for next week, it is a pretty heavy week starting on Tuesday. So Tuesday, we have the Chicago PMI, as well as consumer confidence, both for April. And those are going to come out before the market opens. On Wednesday, it's a pretty busy day with the ADP's non-farm employment change out before the open, then the S&P Global Final Manufacturing PMI, as well as the ISM Manufacturing PMIs. Both of those are for April as well. And March's JOLTS job reports opening, as well as crude oil, are all going to come out after the market opens. Then midday, we actually have the federal funds rate, meaning the interest rate decision, along with the FOMC statement. And directly after, we are going to have the FOMC press conference. Now, as much as I don't listen to a lot of the noise out there, I would listen to these comments and learn how to read between the lines. Thursday is going to bring us the unemployment claims before the market opens. And finally, on Friday is another busy day with average hourly earnings month over month, non-farm payroll, and the unemployment rate, all for April and all before the market opens. Then after the open, we will have the S&P Global's Final Services PMI and the ISM Services PMI again for April. In the evening, we have a couple Fed presidents speaking. First, Chicago's Austin Goolsbee, and soon after, New York's John Williams. Again, something to pay attention to. Again, in normal times, I would say it's a toss-up whether to listen to these gentlemen speak versus just kind of checking out the information afterwards, but these are not normal times. There are really a lot of things happening right now, and a lot that is unseen. Again, I cannot stress enough that you're in the right place. Those who know how to look at this market in such a way as to kind of understand how to mitigate risk, know what you're looking for in the first place, as well as the confidence to follow through properly. That is what you need in this market. So Ghost Traders, keep your chin up this week. Pay attention to the actions and reactions of your favorite assets. Understand kind of how they bob and weave within the earnings, the reports, and when certain people speak. Look at your intraday charts, and really get to know them and learn how these daily bars were formed. It's going to help you give some overall insight as to the personality of your assets that you like to follow. And with that, have an amazing weekend, and I will see you in our live sessions. And until then, happy trading.